I want to ask Steve Quayle of stevequayle.com, one of the original preppers, one of the original patriots in America, 25 plus years on air, one of the first people I interviewed when I got on air 21 years ago, where he thinks the Trump revolution's going, what he thinks of Brexit. Are these not good signs of an awakening? I know on top of that, horrible global government, horrible economic numbers, forced inoculations, open borders, TB pouring across, jihadis pouring across. I want to ask him, what is the state of the world right now? What is he most focused on? What is he most concerned about? He also has hosted TV shows. He has a new amazing DVD film out we'll be telling you about in the next hour, True Legends, the series.com, stevequayle.com. I want to ask Steve Quayle, who saw this way far off, first got a report on geoengineering, chemtrailing. I'm not kissing his butt. It's true. First guy that I'd get him on because he was interesting, and I knew a lot of stuff he was saying was true. A lot of it was so far out. Human, animal, chimera splicing already going on. I went and searched it, found one BBC article admitting that a decade before it was already happening. So I started going, wow, this guy knows what he's talking about, but why wouldn't they show us the humanzees? Why wouldn't they show us the part human, part cows being produced? Why wouldn't they show us the spider goats? Now they've started to. The last decade, until last week, the Associated Press, that's the mouth of Sauron, said, oh, we're splicing humans and animals and raising them inside other animals, and we're going to have all these organs, and they don't have rights because they're part animal, part human. See, this no man's land. Everything Steve Quayle wrote about in his Genetic Armageddon work and his, I mean, all of his books, which a lot of them are out of print. So enough lavishing praise on Mr. Quayle. Steve, let's get into the state of the world, kind of a big picture from 35,000 feet, then let's zoom in on particulars. But I'm telling you, the nightmare dystopia that you foresaw 25 years ago, it is more and more a reality, spot on, unfortunately. A, how did you know all this? And B, what's the next shoe to drop?
Well, I think, Alex, my perspective when I started on talk radio, 25 plus years ago, was the fact that I began to be a student of prophecy. And the bottom line is the one world government, the one world religion, and the one world economic meltdown, along with the world currency. And we're seeing that all. But you used a word I want to really focus in. Lawlessness is in the land. The cover-up, the situation of 4 mysterious deaths connected to the DNC in less than a month. And these are the who's who. And how about Bob Bickel calling for the assassination? Now, these are his words, ladies and gentlemen. Just kill this son of a bitch. So those are his words, and Alex is the total breakdown of everything that we used to know was truth, and we're seeing the implementation of total lies. And the total implementation of lies, look, that's what you've been doing. I want to encourage people, support Alex, support those of us who are out there sounding the alarms. And Alex, right now, it's like we're looking at everything in perspective. We're looking at it retrospect, but it's upon us. When I said on Coast to Coast 20-some years ago, that I see civil war, and I warned the police in those days, and I warned the different, even gang members going on record with those over the airwaves. Look, you guys, you're going to be used as pawns. And isn't it interesting? The same people that want to take away our Second Amendment are absolutely covering up, the lone gunman, the false flags. You and I have dealt with that for years. How is it that the first reports are always multiple gunmen, and by the time the mainstream vomit brokers get done, it's a single guy, and he's not, out there.
Well, we know there were 5 people in Nice, France, and they covered that up.
Yep. Yeah, so there's a cover-up. And I want to share something with everybody. Turn the bloody networks off. CNN has always been communist network news, and we're right, Alex, in the middle of a complete communist attempt at takeover and control. Some people don't like to use that word, but you're talking about people as young as 27 years old. Seth Conrad, Rich, he was only 27. Then you got John Ash, he's murdered. You got Victor Thorne, who's the author of books exposing the Clintons. And then you've got Sean Lucas, lead attorney for the anti-Clinton DNC fraud. So, ladies and gentlemen, when DNC people start being destroyed from within their own group.
And by the way, absolutely, go back to Assange a few weeks ago. He said, this is not the Russians. And now he's saying basically that, yes, this guy was probably his source. He doesn't want to say. But the point is that now he's dead. I mean, this is a serious message. You were the first to, when it was only like 50 or something. Now it's like 400. When they started killing all the top microbiologists. I mean, running over them with a van, you know, at the University of Houston and backing back over them, cutting people's heads off, chopping their hearts out, torturing them to death, shooting them, killing their families, all over the world, the microbiologists. Sorry.
No, it was not only microbiologists, but it was lead virologists, lead immunologists. And here was the deal, Alex. Most people can't still put it together. And now, as you know, it's now natural health practitioners. I think that's 52 or 54 so far. Everyone has got to understand DNC is openly advocating becoming Murder Inc., okay? Now, we know you've had Larry on, former Clinton aide, talking about all the deaths under the former Clinton administration and present Clinton administration. The inability for a known traitor, as Hillary is, to basically even be prosecuted tells you how deep the tentacles go into the federal government. And iniquity is abounding. That's absolutely, I'd say, evident to everybody. So let's talk about what the most important things are. I said, and you know this, we've done this in the past, probably a decade ago, that it will be the goal of the New World Order to turn the police against the people and the people against the police. I've even gone on record with a lot of police, law enforcement officers, you know them, I know them, intel guys. I'm saying, look, watch who's in your ranks. Watch who they put into your departments. There's usually hitters, which means an assassin, and there's also the spies. And Alex, isn't it interesting that there's never any follow-up on who the shooters are, who the relationships were? I'm talking about even the police or even in the BLM, Black Lives Matter, the guys that basically go off and want to kill white people. Well, this is all orchestrated. And by the way, that's been one of the basic tenets of the Communist Manifesto.
Well, I know a lot of it is orchestrated, I mean, by Soros. And I mean, you were talking about this. I don't want to keep going back to this, but like 15 years ago, and I was like, hey, I'm against the police state, Steve, and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, listen, you don't understand. They're militarizing them, globalizing them, and they're going to cause a civil war, wipe out the police, and bring in the multinationals. Now, officially, Strong Cities admits the UN is going to run local police departments.
Right. And also, I think the most critical thing for people to understand is Obama has signed secret executive orders. And I believe, Alex, he's already signed the Articles of Surrender. You cannot put what you talk about day in and day out, all your videos, everything I'm talking about, you can't put it into any other context. You know that not one terrorist training camp, especially of those that are known and watched and monitored and have federal agents in them, has been arrested. They don't even have weapons. I know. And instead they tell the FBI they've removed dozens of names like Islamic and Jihad. They can't even ask people that in interrogations. They have literally told them, stand down. We're going to break. I want to cover this in quadrants. The Islamic invasion, 5 million in Europe. We don't know the numbers here. Steve, do you have any idea what the real numbers are? I mean, I know in Austin, it's 50 times what they claim. Right. Well, here's the deal. Everybody can put this into context if they understand that we are under Islamic assault. You've got all the top members in the Obama administration, even in our intelligence and in our Defense Department. Alex, they want World War III. That's why the President of the United States and his whole crew, the neocons, plus the neocons on steroids, they want a war with Russia so they can turn the world into a global nuclear meltdown, and that's where the Imam Mahdi comes on the scene. And that's why you can explain everything. You can explain everything that's going on in France, everything that's going on in Britain, everything that's going on in Sweden.
And
Denmark.
Why would Hillary put the nightclub shooter's dad right behind her in the perfect shot in the vetted area, totally vetted, to send the message that it's time to launch?
It is time to launch. And this is so critical. That was a signal to everyone. Look, let's make it clear. Humadine, and Hillary, they have a relationship that goes beyond politics. I'll be nice. You have a woman who is a mouthpiece for the Muslim Brotherhood, and this is the thing that makes me crazy, Alex. Seriously, why do people not understand?
Stay right there, Steve Quayle. Stay there. This is key. Thank you. All right. Short segment. Then we're coming in with the third hour. We've got to get Steve Quayle on more often. SteveQuayle.com will also, before he leaves, talk about his new DVD film, part of a series, True Legends, the series.com. Amazing. I've now had a chance to see it. It's like Discovery Channel quality. We have the State Department spokesman, Mark Toner. I want to play in a moment because Steve was talking about this total culture of lying, where whether it's Gibbs getting up and saying, yeah, there's no drone program, even though there is one, I'm telling you there isn't one, and he laughs at you, to Toner, to others. There's this flaunting in criminology. There's this throwing it in your face when they think they're invincible, and this ties into all of it. But I'm telling you, they are trying to destabilize this country and Europe and areas of Asia, Latin America. Brazil is in collapse. Venezuela is in collapse. Areas of Africa are in collapse. And you go research, it's by design. People can pretty much take care of their societies, folks. There's an evil force that wants chaos. And they are saying that Trump wants civil war because he said, you know, we have a Second Amendment to fall back on, when they're the ones pushing that narrative. But I want to play this clip of Mark Toner to get Steve Quayle's response. This is the State Department lead spokesman just last week. And, of course, we've been playing it a lot because it's so amazing how arrogant he is. I want Steve's take on it. Here it is.
Welcome to the State Department. I think we have some interns in the back. Welcome. Good to see you in this exercise in transparency and democracy.
Is that what it is?
Sorry,
I didn't mean to break I thought it was an exercise in spin and obfuscation.
All right. Can you tell us my last briefing?
All right, can you tell it's my last briefing? He's just telling you here at the end. Maybe he's a good guy. Hey, we're all a bunch of liars. Tell us my last briefing. Maybe he has a soul. Maybe I'm reading it wrong. But then we have this Mateen's father, Omar Mateen's father, right behind Hillary in that vetted area. I mean, that clearly is a message, Steve Quayle.
Well, of course, it's a clear message. And obviously, if you notice, the whole Democratic National Convention, the only people allowed to pray there was, I believe, a Muslim mullah. But here's the bigger picture, Alex. The whole overwhelming of every part of the United States, every border, language, culture, our national symbols, our national anthem, the flag. We knew from the beginning, obviously, from the first years of the president's, what I would call reign of terror, T-E-R-R-O-R, that we were going to see the events that he said America's the greatest nation in the country, or excuse me, in the world, and we intend to change all that. Well, what people are watching has changed, and I want to get on to the arming of our enemies. You know, Paul Craig Roberts in his latest article said this: now that ISIS is on the verge of total defeat in Syria, Washington's whores among the experts want Russia punished for blocking Washington's overthrow of Syria. Let me make this clear. Every major world government is run by high-powered illuminists. If you watch Hollande, if you watch all these people that line up and stack up against Donald Trump. When I was on Coast to Coast, when Donald Trump, and I believe he's the real deal. I've listened to what you've had him on. I've listened to him on Michael Savage. Plus, guess what? When they can't buy you, they first try to insult you, they vilify you, then they try and nullify you, and then they try and destroy you. Well, the point is that if someone's known more by his enemies than his friends, and everything you, Alex, and I have talked about all these decades are obvious for everyone to see, then you got to know that these guys are really worried. And again, I agree
with you, and we're about to go to break. We'll come right back to you. Steve Quayle, SteveQuayle.com's our guest. I'm not going to get into inside baseball, but Trump is for real. He is a patriot, and he's been aware of this stuff for decades, Steve. So he's been a sleeper cell for the Patriots. That's why they're so scared.
Yes, he has. And I think that, you know, I think he's an outstanding human being. You look at his kids, they're just amazing.
And he doesn't want to have war with Russia. He's just a good person. We'll be back in 70 seconds with Steve Quayle. Stay with us. And Steve Quayle of SteveQuayle.com is our guest. True Legends, the series.com is the amazing Discovery Channel level quality production based on biblical research and then going and around the world and really making some amazing discoveries. No doubt we're being lied to on many, many fronts. We'll talk about that before Steve leaves us. Steve, this is a short segment, long segment coming up. Most of our breaks are at the end and start of an hour, as you know, in talk radio. We've got an old clock from like the 1990s that we stick with. But just in the 5 minutes we have here, let me ask you this question. Your prominence, and this is not for egos. I mean, I know you're basically a recluse, like Dr. Pachinik and others, and I get more and more like that because this is our duty. I mean, we're totally in the game, but it's not about being fancy pants here. But what do you think I can do better, or what else should I be doing? Because we've got such a major platform now that since I recently talked to some of the heavy hitters in government and others and Trump and Nigel Farage, I didn't realize that InfoWars was at the heart of even their own intelligence briefings. So what should we say to these guys, and what should we do?
Well, first of all, standing up for righteousness is always right, and speaking out against evil is really right. Even Solomon said, woe unto those who call evil good and good evil. I mean, that's a biblical narrative. But the thing is, Alex, the country is rotting from within. Our foundation. See, this is what you're doing. You're discussing what the country was like. And the problem with most people is they think we still have a Constitution and Bill of Rights. We only have it to the degree we're willing to fight for it. And I say fight in the marketplace of ideas. So when you ask me that, I would tell you this. I think your interview with Steve Pachinik, Dr. Steve Pachinik, was admirable. I don't think people realize that if they're listening to CNN and ABC, CBS, Fox, and all that, that's all vomit brokers. That's why the headlines are the same. They have got to turn that stuff up. I remember when I talked about television sets and television programming basically having infrasonics and
now it's putting people into trances. That's now all declassified and admitted.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to get the news, look, I got to tell you something. I think the amount of news that's coming out on the alternative networks, and you carry your own stories, and, I think, by the way, I think your investigative journalism, and I don't kiss anybody's butt, okay, is just second.
Well, we have an amazing crew, but I think where you and I and others are, and George Norrie, you name it, are similar is we just take from all the interesting things and have a real debate. We're not just CNN or Fox. We're here just trying to really fight the globalists. I mean, I think it's because we're mission-oriented.
Well, and what was it? Was it Goering, or I think it was Goering who said, thank goodness for us that people don't think. Well, we're trying to get people to think. We're trying to get them involved. We're trying to get them to break away from the iPads, iPods, smartphones, dumb phones, And we talked about all this stuff, mind control. Every single thing I've learned about mind control, the super soldier program, you remember that stuff was far out when I first started talking about it.
I know, and now it's all just like you said in MIT magazine.
Yep, and here's the thing that people have got to understand. These demon-possessed, and by the way, when you watch what Matt Drudge does, kudos to Matt, because the amount of demon possession in the United States is becoming so great and so acute.
By the way, you said 15 years ago, and that's when I'd really roll my eyes, and I'm being honest, is you'd be like, then there'll be massive demon possession, and now it's all over the news. People are like turning into demons.
Well, actually, the demons are coming out of them, and this is what's happening. As the I'm going to give you something cool, okay? Not too heavy. As the electromagnetic spectrum is manipulated through HARP and 200 other patents, the ability for these entities that are demon-possessing most of the people that are in politics, I'm not making that statement broadly, or forgive me, I am making it broadly, but it applies when they all sing and chirp the same hellish harpy siren song, then you know that...
I want to hear about this because Hillary looks like she's possessed. Steve Quayle's our guest, and I hate every 10 seconds to go back and say, and you said this, and you said that. But I've interviewed this guy maybe 100 times. I mean, back 21 years ago, 20 years ago, he was like a go-to guy. And he'd be like, kid, I'm busy. You always want me to come on your show. But I got to tell you, I mean, I just thought the guy was entertaining. I mean, I believed that he believed what he was saying. And so much of what he said that I'd researched checked out, but then the other stuff was so wild. And then now I'm just thinking back during the break, it's freakish how accurate this guy's been. And then I would talk to like retired generals, and I mean recently retired, and they'd say, I like Steve Quayle, that's good info. And after you talk to a bunch of generals and and intelligence operatives, they're telling you how great Steve Quayle is, you start really going, wow, what's really going on this planet? And what does Steve Quayle really know? Because I know Steve Quayle really won't even talk on the air about stuff. He will talk privately with folks, and I've never had a chance to talk to him privately. I know Gary Haven has. It's just a totally insane world. And we have to understand, the people running things are evil. And whether you believe in God or not, they do. And they believe in the devil. And whether it's Bohemian Grove or Skull and Bones, they believe they're channeling spirits like voodoo. And the spirits they believe they're channeling want to do evil things. I don't want to get into this today. We can have Steve back next week if he wants to do it in a separate show. But from the perspective of, it's just as an anthropologist or as a psychologist, you put that hat on. The elite believe in all this weird occult stuff, and every culture ends up getting into it. So is it genetic? Is it spiritual? And then you look at the practices that have happened throughout history, and you look at how the globalists are changing the atmosphere, changing the soil, changing the planet, doing things fundamentally to kill the planet, while they sit there claiming they love us and want to save the planet. So everything they say is basically the opposite. And along comes Donald Trump, who's for prosperity and who doesn't want to have wars and who isn't a globalist and who has been quietly reaching out for years to the liberty movement about what could he do to try to stop this. I mean, my life is a Twilight Zone episode. And then I want to get back to this, Steve, and then give me the floor. In fact, I'm going to skip this break so you have more time. I want to ask you a question. Getting back to this, I talked to Special Forces people. I talked to, last night, I talked to Biggs, who's been in a lot of combat, and I said, what do you make of this Omar Mateen's father getting in, being in the vetted area? You got to go through hell to be part of that. The Democrats put up who they want. They put her right over her right or left shoulder. That's obviously a message. And Biggs is like, yeah, the message is we're taking the government over. The Democrats are with us. Nothing can stop us. He's got his jihad show, his Wahhabist program, his Pashtun program on broadcast TV in California and on the internet. He lives in New York. He goes down to Florida in Orlando to symbolically sit there with 50+ dead, dozens wounded, or over 100 wounded, and stand there behind her and have that message sent out worldwide. Because I know the globalists, it's not just about here, it's about worldwide. We're in a trance, but the rest of the world gets these different messages. And then Biggs on air said, no, that's a message. Come in. This is it. We're taking over. This is the, this is it. All's good. The government's with us. This is a plan. She's our Demi. Exactly what our other sources have said with Merkel. And then I made some phone calls to folks I know, and I said, what is that? They go, it's a message. Come on in. It's a takeover. So it's like a movie. They have these TV shows where they think somebody might be a secret jihadi inside Homeland Security, and he's doing coded messages on TV. But we're not watching a TV show. This is happening. Now, I asked you what you thought it was. You said the same thing independently. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the next few years, the next few months, where you see the state of the world, where you see everything going. I mean, your greatest hits of latest info, Steve Quayle, stevequayle.com.
Well, I think, Alex, where we're at now is the most perilous time in our history, our nation's history. And again, I agree with Joe Biggs, what he said, because, again, that's my position also. But if you look under this, one of the hardest things for people to grasp is the world of supernatural evil, okay? If you look at Hollywood prepping us from the first Alien shows, the black and white ones, War of the Worlds, everything that's been done through Hollywood, now to some of the most sinisterly manifestations, Childhood's End. I encourage everybody to, look at that. It was, I think, on the Sci-Fi Channel, Arthur C. Clarke. What we're being prepped for is basically the whole enunciation and the whether people like it or not, the presentation of Lucifer to the world.
And giving up our free will and being uploaded to a silicon ship, which, for those that don't know who H.G. Wells was, or for folks that don't know who Arthur C. Clarke was, this is the inventor of the telecommunications satellite, like number 3 in command of the OSS and MI6, a total Luciferian, and he admitted Childhood End is basically the program.
Absolutely, and that's what, and I just want to bring this up real quick. That's why, and our True Legends, the DVD, the Unholy See, that's what everything is being prepped for. Look, Tom Horn, in his book, Exo Vaticana and stuff, what people don't understand is the most expensive research in the world that's on Mount Graham with the infrared telescope and the Lucifer device. Oh, gee, why'd they name it that? What we're doing, Alex, in this newest DVD is showing people step by step what is in play in the headlines, how it all plays into the globalist Luciferians. Let me make this clear. They're more determined in looking after and looking out for the second coming of Satan on the earth, because we know he takes over the earth for 3.5 years. People argue with me. I'm not going to argue with them. The bottom line is that now we have...
How could you argue now? It's a giant, every major globalist group's called Lucifer. I mean, they are just openly admitting it all.
Well, they're openly admitting it all, and see, that's the hard part. And somebody said, well, you just asked me too, and I think that's what some of the generals... By the way, we've got Admiral Thomas More, one of the first guys I ever heard from.
I've interviewed him before he died. He exposed everything.
Yep, he exposed everything, but he told one of his research assistants, Sue Bradley, who's now gone to be with the Lord, the bottom line is, he said, you need to listen to Steve because he's telling people what is going to play out.
And he was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Yep, and he was the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Now, why would he say that? First of all, look, I'm not, I talk to a lot of people like you do, but this was my calling to be a watchman. Trust me, it doesn't, and I say that's a biblical calling. God always declares the end from the beginning. So that's what my whole perspective is always framed on Scripture. Now, obviously, people who hate Jesus, who hate God, who hate Christians. Oh, and by the way, isn't it amazing that, when I was given the red list, the blue list, and the green list, you and I talked about that almost, I think, when you first started on radio. The guy that gave me that information is he was murdered for that information.
Steve, I've had so many guests that were murdered after they came on. And then I even talked to their condo manager, and she goes, yeah, she said, get this to you. They're following her. She'll never kill herself. And then they kill her. And then I even have the police detectives call and go, yeah, no, they murdered her, Mr. Jones. You mind coming to Florida? I'm like, no. It's just like, I just don't think the average person realizes how crazy this is, Steve.
Well, it's Murder, Inc., okay? And the deal is, now remember,
let me ask you this then. Why are you and I still alive? Providence?
No, the intervention of the living God, Alex, and there are people praying for you. I remember one time you let me pray over you, and I prayed for your safety and the family. And I'm not saying, whoopee, it's not my purse, but there are intercessors out there. Look, they may not like the way you act, I act, what we speak. If you're too gruff or I'm too bottom line. But the thing is that we're still here by the grace of God. And I want to thank everybody who's listening to Alex Jones today for praying for Alex's safety.
I can feel the prayers. Can't you feel the prayers, Steve?
Oh, absolutely. Let me say this, Alex. So many times I would be dead. So many times I've been betrayed by those closest to me. And I want to say this to you on the air. And please don't go into whatever your security is, but whatever it is, double it, okay? When the FBI this is critical, when the FBI would not release the 8,000, 15,000 names, the majority of them are Christians, talk show hosts, ministers. When they wouldn't do that, and that's just absolutely...
Well, it was leaked. Hillary's and Obama's enemy list is mainly media.
Yeah, but even beyond that, look, the bottom line is every church that preaches the gospel of Jesus Christ should have armed deacons. I'm not kidding you.
That's right. The globalists know which ones they are and just send the minions.
Yeah, and here's the thing. We're in the time. Let me share this. Prophet Isaiah said this, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. It's like Isaiah's reading the headlines of all the mainstream press, and you've done so many DVD or videos.
Absolutely, but enough about, getting to this. What do you make then of just this open, naked evil, and why would they be trying to install Hillary, who's obviously so ill? What's going on?
Well, I think, I don't know that she's going to make it to the nomination, and this is why I pray, and I encourage everyone to pray for Donald Trump's safety, okay? Look, here's what's interesting. Jesus said the love of money is the root of all evil. The control of money is the control of all evil. And when you got the world's leftist billionaires, what is it? Google itself has been in the White House 256 times or something.
And they're all, quote, obsessed with the fountain of youth. That's the East Bay Times today.
You know why?
And they want to take blood transfusions from children.
Right. Well, they're vampires, okay? And I understand what that means. You see, the Bible says the life is in the blood, okay? And obviously a child's blood has antibodies, you know, as long as he hasn't been vaccinated, and all the different things. And I want to make this clear. Ladies and gentlemen, when Alex is giving all these health food supplements and supplies, understand it's not just a question of food that goes into your stomach, but it's cellular nutrition. It's building up your natural biodefenses. And it's interesting, Jesus said, out of your innermost being will spring forth rivers of living water, and our gut is really critical. That's the ganglionic.
And again, the Rockefellers that patented Zika in '54, I mean, you can look that up, folks, and all of them are obsessed with gut flora, all the synthetic pesticides, the dead earth, we have dead guts. They don't tell you, of course, and I'm not doing a plug, but I am doing a plug. When we sell true clean iodine, when we sell DNA Force, when we sell these things, these are the things that God gave us, Mother Nature in the earth, that I wouldn't be alive without. You know, I mean, literally, colloidal silver. I mean, I have seen it. And so, yes, of course, we sell the things we believe in. We know we're good. It's symbiotic. I would never sell someone something that I didn't 100% know was good. People say, oh, you're such a good guy. What the hell? I'm not about to screw anybody over. And I don't understand, like, how I wouldn't screw somebody over, and I feel bad when I do bad things. And I see these other people. It's like they don't have a soul, Steve. They don't care.
They don't, Alex. That's the point. And you made it earlier. Here's the thing. The United States, in my opinion, is Mystery Babylon, and we become a habitation of devils, okay, and the hold of every foul spirit. What you're watching is soulless entities, okay? And what's interesting, you know, when you and I first did, you remember this, when we first did a show together back, you know, 20 years ago, let's say, the bottom line is whenever
21 years ago, 21 years ago.
Yeah. You remember when we talked about the soul catcher?